in its second unopposed week on what ended up the final Monday Nitro under the original Eric Bischoff era, with him leaving the company 3 days later. Nitro in the final build to the Fall Brawl pay-per-view saw the show headlined by a 6-man cage match involving the 3 top singles matches on Sunday, building up viewers throughout the night to go from 4.4 in the first hour to over 5.5 million viewers in the third, in Nitro's most watched hour in 6 months, seeing Goldberg, Hogan and Sting against Page, Seed and Steiner crossing past 11 p.m. to peak the show at 5.6 million viewers, with the final angle to the Hogan vs. Sting title match on Sunday setting up the Sting turn. With Raw starting at 11 p.m. for the next 2 weeks, WCW coming from the Nassau Coliseum with anticipation to draw its biggest TV audience in at least 4 months, saw Nitro, which was originally promoted to be headlined by a Goldberg vs. Page match, built on a show-long angle teasing a Hogan turn on Sting, with Luger stirring things up throughout, building to a Hogan and Goldberg segment in the third hour, leading to the promoted singles match turning into Goldberg and Hogan teaming up against Page, Bigelow and Kanyon in the main event, seeing the match going 5 minutes to peak the night with a 4.8 rating and over 5.6 million viewers. An unprecedented experiment on wrestling television opened Nitro on March 8 with Nash, after being established as the main booker heading the creative committee, trying a new format in an attempt to close the growing gap from Raw, with the unopposed hour mostly featuring a series of skits, interviews and video recaps as a pre-show-like concept to save the arena atmosphere to the head-to-head period when Raw goes on the air, heavily featuring Hogan and Nash, who in the last month more than ever before were established on and off screen as the 2 most powerful performers in the company, with the unique hour of wrestling television maintaining around the same audience of the past month of regular programming to average 5.7 million viewers, with WCW officially kicking off the show at 8:55 p.m. to go to the crowd in the building for the first time a minute from the top of the hour for a Flair vs. Goldberg confrontation setting up the main event. After the last few weeks of Flair taunting Bischoff and different trolls in the building, Nitro had a major go-home angle for the Super Brawl pay-per-view, with Eric driving Flair's limousine to an NWO trap in the middle of a field, setting it up in the first 45 minutes, with the big production segment taking place in the final quarter of the first hour, with the NWO following the limousine with Hummers and helicopter shots, ending with Flair getting out of the limo to find Nash and Hogan near the door to start a brawl, which ended in a brutal 7-minute beatdown to leave Flair laying in location, with the NWO Flair scene, which crossed 3 minutes past 9 p.m. drawing a 5 rating, and the unopposed hour followed by another joint show high 5 opposed quarter, with the NWO arriving to the building an hour later, setting up the major surprise of the show, with Commissioner Roddy Piper showing up unannounced to book an impromptu Hogan vs. Piper title match going 6 minutes, with the NWO arrival and the Piper-Hogan match leading to a massive swing of viewers from USA to TNT, as WCW jumped huge with over 1.8 million viewers from a 3.4 to 5 rating, while Raw dropped from a 6.1 to 5.1 at the same time, closing the broadcast with the NWO coming back out near 11 p.m. for the show closing segment, with Ric Flair arriving to the building, seeing the Flair NWO segment spiking another 1.6 million viewers to a 4.5 overrun. The Wolfpack's jet arrived in the Dallas airport midway through Nitro's first hour to see them before heading to the Reunion Arena, turning on Curt Hennig to kick him out of the group before driving to the building, peaking another near-record first hour averaging over 6 million viewers, with Nitro putting on a loaded card with every major name featured either in hyped matches or show-long angles to counter Raw coming off the Rumble pay-per-view, resulting in one of the most competitive Mondays in history, with both shows trading viewership victories in every quarter for the rest of the night, culminating in a massive star power main event battle with an NWO vs. Horseman 6-man tag match going head-to-head with a Rock vs. Triple H I Quit match for the title, seeing the Hogan, Nash and Steiner vs. Flair, Benoit and Mongo main event go in 18 minutes to gain over 700,000 viewers in total to a 5.3 overrun rating, closing out the biggest month in Monday Night Tour's history in January 1999 with a wild NWO vs. WCW brawl with Goldberg the last one to come out. With a slight change to the new experiment of only officially kicking off at 9 p.m. when Raw goes on the air, the Nitro opening took place at 8:55 just as Ric Flair's limousine arrived to the building in time for the crossover segment today after turning heel to win the WCW title for the 14th time, starting a gradual double turn with Hogan to see Nitro going all out from the start with Goldberg confronting Flair followed by Nash and Hogan coming out for a four-way promo exchange to set up a massive tag match for the main event, with the big star power promo confrontation in the first quarter leading to WCW in one of the only times in show history maintaining the entire unopposed audience to open with a 5 rating in its highest rated segment in months, with the headline tag match almost 2 hours later seeing both companies putting on mega tag matches head-to-head with Goldberg and Flair vs. Hogan and Nash going up against Austin and Mankind vs. Rock and White in the final quarter and overrun, seeing the matches going neck and neck with Raw having the lead in total viewers but with Nitro's match picking up huge by the minute to spike over 2 million viewers for the duration of it, with the Hogan and Nash vs. Flair and Goldberg tag going 10 minutes peaking past 11 p.m. with a 5.4 rating to slightly overtake Raw's 5.3 in the final recorded segment to outrate Raw head-to-head in show history. Looking to follow up the record-breaking night the previous Monday with wrestling interest at an all-time high, Nitro kept the ball rolling on January 11th with the first hour overall setting its all-time record with a 5.9 rating, ending it with a strong lead into 9 p.m. with the Wolfpack limousine arriving 4 minutes from the top of the hour to make a unique entrance flanked by the Hells Angels as a response to Goldberg calling members of the Atlanta Falcons to join him in the ring, opening the first opposed quarter which saw Hogan, Nash and Scott Steiner cutting promos to hype their upcoming matches with one of the biggest opening viewership totals in show history, drawing 5.9 million viewers against a Mankind, Rock and McMahon segment also following up the title change last Monday, headlining the broadcast with the match to determine the top NWO Giant setup with 4 days of hype since being announced on Thunder last Thursday with Nash vs. Giant in Paul White's final match in the company, with Nash and Giant coming out 2 minutes from 11 p.m. to go 8 minutes in the overrun including being boosted by 3 minutes unopposed after Raw went off the air, closing the show with a 4.7 rating for the main event with Nash going over followed by the NWO sending White out of the company with Bischoff taking the final shot declaring Nash as the NWO corporate giant. For the first time since going on the air in September 1995, WCW rebranded Monday Nitro on April 5 with the biggest marketing campaign and visual change to refresh the brand, starting the first show of the new era fast with Bill Goldberg coming out to issue an open challenge for the Spring Stampede pay-per-view to bring out Nash to set up the Goldberg vs. Nash Starrcade 98 rematch for Sunday, peaking the first hour 40 minutes later in the segment setting up a massive main event for the hyped broadcast with Ric Flair after saying that he's taking away Hogan's shot at the pay-per-view to instead face him tonight, booking a new match for the title following a 4-way confrontation with Hogan, Goldberg and Dallas Page all coming out for the shot in a segment doing an hour high of over 5.4 million viewers seconds before Raw went on the air, with the match close to 2 hours later leading Nitro to one of the biggest viewership spikes of the year with the show after trailing by the biggest margin of the night minutes earlier, rebounding huge for the main event gaining over 1.8 million viewers from a 3.8 to 5.4 rating to go neck and neck with Raw, with the Goldberg-Hogan-Flair-Page WCW title match going 11 minutes in the final quarter before crossing past 11 p.m. with the finish of the 4-way match followed by Sting's hype return after 6 months saved for the end of the show, peaking the rebranded Nitro in the 2-minute overrun with a 5.8 rating and 6.5 million viewers. with the wrestling audience increasing to levels never seen before to kick off 1999. WCW going unopposed for the first time in 5 months on February 8 was expected to approach record numbers with a chance to get regular Raw viewers to sample the product for the first time since September '98, featuring several new elements with show-long angles and skits all over the building, with WCW's new creative committee headed by Nash having more leeway to put their stamp on the product, building up to the main event of The Outsiders against Flair and Mongo going 11 minutes over the final quarter and overrun, peaking with a 6.5 rating and over 7.2 million viewers for the tag match, along with Hogan and Goldberg coming out for the show-closing brawl, with WCW overall getting the expected major bump to draw the second most watched Nitro in show history, with all 3 hours ending up the 3 most watched hours of the week on cable television. One of the biggest nights in the history of wrestling television opened 1999 with the most hyped head-to-head battle in Monday Night War's history, matching expectations to shatter every viewership record for the industry on cable television, with WCW in front of a record crowd at the Georgia Dome for a show originally built on the Goldberg vs. Nash Starrcade '98 rematch, along with Hogan's farewell appearance and Flair's first night as the new president, starting a show-long twist 2 minutes from 9 p.m. with Goldberg getting arrested and taken out just as Hogan arrived to the stadium, seeing Nitro's biggest quarter coming 45 minutes later for the 2 segments setting up the new main event of Hogan vs. Nash, with Nash making the challenge to Flair to officially book the match, followed by Hogan making his TV return after almost 2 months out to accept it, bumping the show over 800,000 viewers to a 5.1 rating. With the Hogan vs. Nash title match, which included the reunion of the Outsiders with Scott Hall coming out in a Wolfpack shirt, along with the finger-poke swerve post-match Goldberg vs. NWO brawl in the overrun, seeing WCW having one of the biggest viewership spikes in history, gaining over 2.6 million viewers in total to a peak 6.5 rating with over 7.5 million viewers, driving the broadcast on the record night to the biggest audience to ever watch Nitro on an opposed week.